In conversation with Judith Newcomb Stiles. Judith Newcomb Stiles earned a living as a porter, and while she waits for her pot to dry, she writes. Her essays and short stories can be found in Hemingway Short, Kenyon Review Honorable Mention, Room Magazine, First Prize Nonfiction, Whiteley.com, and the New York Times. She lives on Cape Cod by the sea. An upcoming novel, Hushly to Fire, explores the life of women who live in the underbelly of tourism: a waitress, a drug thief nurse, a sex-crazed abortion doctor, oysterman, the Old Ladies Gossip Militia, and a porter who makes cremation haunts. And in today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy and excitement to have on the show today Judith Newcomb Stiles. How are you doing today, Judith? Welcome on the show.
I'm great. I'm very happy to talk to you about this book. It's a wild ride. Some people are shy or worried about some of the heavy subjects in it, but it's all written through the lens of dark humor. So it helps people come into the book and relax with the dark humor and then face the heavy subjects of
Hmm.
abortion, adoption without comment. I'm not like
Uh,
trying to convert anybody, but I want people to think about these things.
yeah, it's quite amazing, really, to have you on the show today. Quite exciting. We're here to sit and have a conversation around the book. Thank you for coming on. So, Judith, I need to first say that I was intrigued, really, quite taken aback, captivated by the description page of Archly to Fire on Amazon. And I would like us to start today's conversation by asking what inspired you to write this book? What led you to start writing this book? What is the foundation
Oh,
to the making of the book? That'll be fine.
well, that is a long story, but the short version is I earn my living as a potter. This is how I make money, and I love my work.
Oh, look at
But
that.
I spent a lot of time alone, which is great, and I began to like if these family stories in a small town like where I'm living started
Mm.
to haunt me. They just haunted me. They came into my brain and out of my brain, and I thought I should really write these down. And then I thought, well, I really don't want to piss off any relatives,
Hmm.
writing a memoir. But so I fictionalized it. I changed up some of the names in the stories so my relatives wouldn't get upset. And I began to think about the difference between memoir and fiction. Okay, so it's a very much of a tightrope, and I'm trying to walk that tightrope. So, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but basically, it's a blurry line because a lot of people's memories are different. And so somebody will fictionalize something that happened in the family, and it's really not accurate from another person's point of view. So it was really exciting and fun to walk that tightrope of fiction and memoir.
Yeah. That sounds to me like a fun one, really. It sounds like a fun ride. I love the fact that you had to, because you don't want to piss off some people, yeah, make it a fictionalized, story. That's quite beautiful to know, really. Thank you for your lovely explanation about that. And now, just for the sake of readers who haven't read the book yet, and without giving much information away, could you give us a little sneak peek of what to expect in terms of maybe themes and subject lines picking up the book? That'll be fine.
Well, the reader should expect a wild ride. It's not a it's not a gentle, slow-moving, I love everybody in this book type book. I'm very intrigued by people who are good and bad at the same time. And
Hmm.
so we love them and we hate them. And
Balance.
they cause a lot of trouble. So
Hmm.
the reader should expect some very intimate looks at an assortment of people, everything from waitresses, house cleaners, failed fishermen,
Hmm.
the Old Ladies Gossip Militia, which are the gossips in the town. Every town has gossips. They know everything that's happening,
Yeah.
and a sex-crazed abortion doctor. So you get into their heads because I write these parts from the first person point of view.
Wow. That's a beautiful one. I'd like you to show the book to the camera before we go on. If you can raise it to the camera, just so we say, well, look at that. Hush, little fire. Quite beautiful. How did you come up with this title name and even the making of the cover?
Well, when you get a publisher, it's a back and forth on what the title's going to be. In the end, the publisher decides. I had
Mm.
originally wanted the title to be Who Dropped Baby? Who Dropped Baby? Because so much of this is about abortion and adoption. And
Mm.
they felt that this title was better. And I think the title is fine. I went along with it. It's a good title. It matches the story.
Wow, that's quite a one, really. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Judith, I wanted to ask you, what made you to explore race, family, and identity through the eyes of a teenager? How does that come to be?
Well, my writing process is very intuitive, and I simply just, you know, I conjured up the stories where the family tree becomes a pricker bush because everybody is keeping secrets. Secrets about who's the real mother,
Wow.
who's related to who.
Mm,
Lovely family tree becomes a pricker bush. And these stories, I just intuitively picked them. I know because every town, every city has the same deal going on. It causes a lot of problems. But I also, address other issues, life, death,
mm,
through the lens of being a potter and making cremation urns for ashes of somebody who died, and what that whole spiritual process is from taking mud and making it into a vessel that will last 10,000 years to hold the ashes of a loved
mm.
one.
Wow.
When I lived in New York City, I was the word got out, I was the go-to girl to make cremation urns for men who were dying of AIDS.
Oh, wow.
So I did a lot of them and had a lot of stories about that. Someday I'll write about that.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I can't wait for you to write about that. That'll be quite amazing to see and experience as well. I wanted to ask you, how long did it take you to write this book? How long?
8 years, 8 long years. When
Wow.
I began, Roe v. Wade, the law in the United States makes abortion legal, everybody thought it was a done deal. That's it. It's
Mm,
going to be that way forever. And I didn't think so. I had this feeling that the ship would turn and things might drastically change. And my first agent said, you should tone down the abortion stuff because it's
mm.
radioactive. That's the word he used.
Oh,
But he doesn't want to think about it anymore. And I decided not to do that
wow.
because I think it's a front and center issue now.
Mm, oh, wow. And also, I was wondering, were there any scenes or chapters that were particularly difficult or emotional for you to write in this book?
All of it.
Wow.
All of it. I loved every minute of writing it. I was sorry when I was done because I loved living with these characters.
Mm,
They're not characters, they're people in my book. And they are real people, many of them sort of
yeah.
count. But the whole process was intense but gloriously fun.
Wow. That must have been quite a huge one to write. Even with the fact that it takes you 8 years as well to finish up. That's quite a long one, really.
Well, I wrote for 8 years, but I also have this pottery business, and I write part-time for an Italian newspaper that's online called Italy.com, YTALI.com. It's an intensely wonderful publication, very honest, very clear, and has really intriguing articles. And they never said no to any one of my pitches
Mm,
and really didn't edit my work much. So I was very busy doing that, doing my pottery business and writing this book part-time. And I think that's partly why it took 8 years.
interesting. And now I'm actually quite intrigued to ask you more about your profession as a porter, because I think all of these are art. Drawing is art, writing is art, being a porter is art, sculpture is part of art. You are typically an artist. You are a porter, you're a writer. And I wanted to ask you, how did you started with being a porter? I mean, could you tell us the background of you being a porter, how it started, and how far you've gone so far? That would be lovely to know.
Well, when I was in fourth grade, I made a clay horse head of a horse. I still have it. And I was like completely enchanted. I went to college as a political science major, and I kept drifting off to the pottery studio and ignoring Lenin and Marx. And then I went on to study with the leading chemist of glaze chemistry
Mm,
and got a master's degree in that. And then I went on to teach at universities. I taught at Pratt Art Institute um, and Skidmore College. And
mm,
then I thought, I want to work for myself. It's very difficult to work with professors who basically denigrated the young women. There were very few young women art students,
mm,
uh, didn't understand what they were trying to do. And it was like a art factory, art school factory. And these students were very talented, really amazing. And I loved that part of it, but I didn't want to work for a university anymore. So I started a business.
oh, wow. And those are your artworks behind you. You made all of them?
Yeah, these are all different things I work on. This is
Wow.
my hood down here. I love it in my clay studio. I'm always so happy to be here.
Wow.
Um, it's like I said, it's like going to the spiritual elements of church without going to a church building and listening to some
Mm,
pastor.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Right
yeah.
now, I'm working on, this is wonderful. I'm working on pieces, sculptures that are related to the people in my book.
Oh,
So I
wow.
have this whole series of the Old Ladies Gossip Militia. They're the women who know everything about everybody all the time. They know things before they happen. And so I'm making a series of 14 old ladies in the Gossip Militia, and they
Wow.
are on a cross because they are
Wow.
being crucified. That's the
Oh,
idea.
wow.
So I'm excited about that. That's July, will be the
Oh,
exhibit.
wow. I hope
Yeah.
that goes on successfully, really. Quite beautiful
Yeah.
to know, even.
I'm kind of beyond the whole success, not success drill. The literary community just seems a little bit like a racket to me.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
Glad they publish books. I'm glad people get to read them. But the ins and outs of the book industry needs work, it needs to be revamped and reimagined.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. Absolutely. Thank you. Now let's go back to your book. You touch on some pretty intense topic in the book. Intense topics like adoption, abortion, and even arson. But you approach them with this unique thread of dark humor. I wanted to ask you, what made you choose that tone to tell such a serious, striking story?
There's something in the book that talks about fire and
Mm,
how small towns, there are a lot of fires, and a lot of times it's for insurance money. But I, as a potter, am just a legal pyromaniac.
mm,
I get to legally play with fire every day. The flames in the kiln, the temperatures, the beauty of opening the spy hole. This is a spy plug, and looking at the atmospheric flame. It goes beyond flame, and it's atmospheric fire,
mm,
and it's a magical thing.
mm.
So, I went from the angle of fire and an arson causing a lot of trouble because that person burned down the old clinic, which used to have
Wow,
illegal abortion. So that's how fire meets the subject of abortion and adoption.
wow, that's quite a great one, really. I love your take on that. That is very descriptive.
But you're going to find yourself laughing in the scene of the abortion doctor with his nurse. The nurse gets badly, badly burned in the fire. She happens to be there because she's stealing drugs, because she has no money, and
Oh.
she's forced retirement. So she's selling OxyContin, stealing it on this side. And that's kind of a tragic scene, but you're going to find yourself, I don't know exactly how I envisioned this, but it's through the lens of dark humor. It just kind of popped out of my brain.
Hmm. Oh, wow. That's a great one. Thank you so much for mentioning. Now let's transition a little bit into readers' feedbacks. Because one of the things that surprised me more as a writer is to sit back and listen to readers' feedback. And you want to agree with me that one of the things that makes literature to be quite complex is the fact that it can be interpreted by different readers based on their opinion. Sometimes the readers might get a message intended by the author. Sometimes they might be close to getting the message. Sometimes they might be far from getting the message. And sometimes they might hilariously misunderstand the book and interpret it upside down. You know, as interestingly fun as they sound, I would like to ask you, how do you feel when readers interpret your work differently than you intended? How does that make you feel as a storyteller?
I expect that. I expect that everybody's going to come from their own corner with their own lens. I just
Eh?
am happy to have the issue or the concept or the characters pass in their range of vision, that they will see this and respond however they're going to respond.
Yeah.
The book is not for people who are looking to have all good people in their book and all happy events and a happy ending.
Mm.
That's not for, the book is not for everyone. I hope that the takeaways for the reader are the most important things to me as a writer, such as how far will a mother go to protect her own
True.
children? Will she break the law? Will she follow the law?
Mm.
And that's one of the big messages. And then the other one, I hope that the reader, even the one that's looking for a um, straight up happy story, is that family secrets is a dangerous game, causes a lot of problems.
Mm.
Not just here in my tiny little town, it's everywhere. When
Yeah.
talking about the book, I find, that it's very common, back in like the 80s and 90s and before that, for a teenage pregnant girl to give the baby up for adoption, but secretly give it to an older relative and pretend it was a regular adoption. So when the kid grows up and finds out, he's like devastated,
That's true.
things like that.
Yeah. That's very true. That is very, very true. I agree with you on that. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, Judith, apart from the book you've mentioned, yeah, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
Working on another book right now. I
Interesting.
don't know what possesses me to write books. I don't know. I like writing short pieces for the Italian newspaper, and so I'm immersed in it. It's based on my experience playing soccer. In England, they call it football, in the
Wow.
Bronx Irish Women's Soccer League, when I was 48.
Oh, interesting.
Like a wild ride. It was a bunch of middle-aged women who were reinventing themselves on the soccer field.
Mm. Oh, wow. That sounds like a lot you've got ongoing, really.
And for Italy.com, I'm working on a piece. It's very tough. Peruvian immigrants who I used to work with
Mm.
back in the 80s and 90s who were illegal. Nobody used that term illegal then. And I ushered them through getting a green card and becoming a citizen and
Wow.
buying a home and raising their family here. It was a long process, took about 12 years.
Mm,
but I'm writing a piece and interviewing them about why they voted for Trump
mm.
did and what suggestions do they have for Trump right now. It's a hot button topic, and
Wow.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Even from your description, I can see that it's really interesting. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing with us. I wanted to ask you, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered in the process of writing this book and also ever since it got published?
Oh, well, the publishing journey is a rough ride because the literary community is a racket.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, I really admire people who self-publish. I don't even think it's called self, it shouldn't be called self-publish. It should be called publishing independence because the person who does that is totally independent. They don't have anybody telling them to change the title or change the cover or
Yeah,
take out stuff. You might offend somebody. It's independent. Landscape is changing. That's
yeah,
beginning to happen a lot more.
yeah.
I am so grateful that Alcove Press and Jess Verdi, who is my editor, took a chance on this book
Mm,
because it's got a lot of rough stuff in it through the lens of dark humor.
mm,
But she took a chance on it, and my agent did also. My agent understands life by the sea. She lives on Martha's Vineyard, which is an island in the middle of the ocean right near where I live. And so she got it. And the editor at Alcove Press was really fantastic to
mm,
work with. A lot of freedom, but also a lot of really good insights of things to change.
mm,
But I've been learning a lot. I really didn't traffic with writers before. I hang out with potters and they don't talk much. We just work and exchange recipes, glazed recipes.
mm,
But I've been meeting writers who have published small books, little tiny books like this with their work, and you turn it over and it starts again on the back. And so it meets halfway in the book. They're beautiful little books, not
mm.
expensive to make. And this writer leaves them in places, like leaves them at the grocery store or at the libraries or whatever. And they were completely independent, totally, able to do what they wanted to do. I wanted, at the end of the first chapter, to have a small photo of a boat on fire because that relates to the first chapter. I suppose if I had done my little book, I could have included that, but
Mm.
it's not cost effective for a publisher. I understand that, but really, when you get involved with a publisher, you better find a good one because they have a lot of control over what you do. And I
Yeah,
actually wound up with a good one.
that's a great one. That's an amazing one. And I like your advice. If you have any sort of advice for struggling writers, what would that be?
I would say a couple of things. I would say get out there and read your work in public. Go to
Mm,
story slams. Go to open mics,
yeah,
go to library events, arrange an open mic event that happens every month at your public library or at a bookstore. People
yeah,
begin to hear your work,
yeah.
and also you get a reading of just by reactions of what you're doing in your own work. For example,
Mm,
I go to something called porch readings in Provincetown, which is the last stop on Cape Cod. Just a fantastic community, and
mm,
it's a bookstore. And every Friday, you can just show up and read whatever you want. You can read somebody else's work. I might read your poetry, by the way, because
yeah.
I read your poetry. I would love to read it if you give me permission. And you just read it, so you can hear it.
Mm,
Sometimes they read their own work. So I always read my own work and down Commercial Street, it's on the porch. So on Commercial Street, people walk by and sometimes they stop and listen and do it on a regular basis because I entered this competition, Read Local, for the Provincetown Book Festival, and I read there.
mm,
And that's where an agent approached me. Also, Instagram. Get your work
Yeah.
on Instagram because you can I publish now excerpts from the book. Like
Mm,
I have this really wonderful excerpt that says, "This is a character speaking. It's a woman named Trudy who has four children and is pregnant again, and she
mm.
said." I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I do. But the Holy Ghost isn't going to babysit for me. So I put that on Instagram with a graphic, and then I sent it to lots of people, other
Yeah.
writers. I sent it to Gloria Steinem, and she wrote
Interesting.
back to me. So
Wow.
disseminate your work by speaking it. You should come to Provincetown, come visit you, and read your poetry
Mm,
on portrait and find other places. It's just for the artist, it's like street art. It's wonderful to do.
yeah. It's a great one, really. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm hoping that viewers, even including myself, would love to utilize that. Now, just in case we have some viewers who are watching this interview, I would love to get a copy of your book. On what platform is it available on for purchase?
You can get it Amazon.com. You get Amazon in England, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everywhere.
And Barnes and Noble's a bookstore here. Come to my shop, the Newcomb Hollow shop in Wellfleet, and I'll give you a copy.
Interesting.
Um, really, because I don't know, the whole book was born here in this town. But my Instagram is really active, really lively, and so fun to do. So I put my pottery up, I put excerpts from the book,
Wow.
and that is Judith Newcomb Stiles underscore shop, because I have a shop. Judith Newcomb Stiles underscore shop. So anybody who Instagrams me, I'll talk to you back.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it's international. It's international. Instagram is everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Judith's book directly on Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, on our website, and also another platform. I also left links to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Judith, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. I must say this conversation is so artistic to me, so beautiful, so lovely having you sit and have a conversation around your beautiful title and your lovely poetry work. Thank you so much for coming on.